welcome to the Lunatic Life. Today I'm going to show you guys how to install beadlocks. I was lucky enough to get a used set of Raceline beadlocks and a really nice set of Toyo MTs, brand spanky new. Oh, upside down, 40 by 13.5 on 17-inch rims. So today we're going to install these suckers. The things that you're going to need, first of all, is a beadlock wheel. Second of all, a massive tire. Beadlock ring, mini bolts, small impact, and torque wrench. Okay, the first thing we got to do, the one thing I forgot to mention that you're going to need, is lubricant. You need to lube up the inside of the tire. Now, lube will go a long way. Many applications in your life. It definitely smooths things out. Anyway, so we're going to lube up the inside of that tire so it'll fit over the rim. You can use dish soap, all different kind of slippery substances. But I'm lucky enough to have tire lube because I do tires at my shop sometimes. So that's what we're going to start with. Grab a bit of the slimy stuff. Gonna come around and give this a generous helping of lubricant. So slippery. Get that all lubed up so it'll slide over really nicely. Back into the hole with you. Now we're ready to do the first part. We're going to put the tire on the rim. Okay, so we're going to bring our tire over to the rim. Just kind of set it on top. Give it a little push. No making fun of me if I gotta jump on this. And there we go. There's your first part. Now I'd say that first part was pretty easy. That slipped on fairly nicely. So now we got to get the bead to sit on the wheel. This is where our ring is going to bolt to. So the bead should just line up right on the outside of that. Now we don't want any sort of lube or silicone or anything like that on there. We need that to seal real nice. So yeah, keep your lubricants off of that and we'll get ready to put the ring on. Okay, so now that we've got that kind of set there, we need the tire to droop down over the wheel. So in order to do that, we need to set it up on something, set the wheel up on something. So I have my bucket of bolts. This is just spare bolts that I got around the shop, but should be heavy enough that this 40 isn't going to tip it over, and then we can start working on getting the ring going. Okay, up we go, big boy. So just bring that over here. We're basically going to set the center of the wheel into there. We're going to see how this goes. I'm going to tip this bucket a little bit. This is a heavy setup, so don't you make fun of me. Whew. We did it. As you can see, the tire is now drooping down, and we're still going to make sure right in here that our bead is right on the edge of that. And that was a good time. Just have a look, make sure it all sits nice and even, and we can grab our ring. So we grab our ring, and we want to line up the holes close as possible so that when we start our bolts they're not kind of going in crooked. So kind of the general rule is that you want to start 4 bolts. I like to start at the valve stem and then go kind of across from the valve stem, and then we're going to go over here and over here and over here, and that kind of helps get it seated a little bit, kind of to go straight. So I'll grab my little impact, I'll just run that down a little bit. So that should kind of get this centered, get the bead sitting in the right spot. We didn't run it down very far, but just enough to clamp it, and it'll kind of push out the bead where it needs to be. So now, I'm just going to fire all the bolts in. Whew, that was a lot of bolts. Now we got all the bolts in, and what I'm going to do is just grab my impact and we're just going to go crossways, just lightly. These things only get torqued to 16 to 18 foot-pounds. I think they said maximum like 22, something like that, but I mean, I'm going to stick with 18 foot-pounds. They're only a 5/16 bolt. You don't want to go crazy on them. So we're just going to cinch these down back and forth to make the torquing process a little bit quicker. So next, we're gonna torque these babies down. This is gonna take a little bit, so have some patience. I went to 17 foot-pounds. You're always going to go just a little bit more. So then, you know, we'll get our 18 or 19 foot-pounds. And what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to start at the valve stem, which is down here, and then we're just going to go across. Do crossways for 32 bolts. Now, what you want to watch for on these is that this is going down flat. If you start to notice that it's going kind of starting to concave, that means your bead is too thick and you're going to need a spacer in here, which some of the thicker bead tires, I think it was 0.680, and larger you need the 1/8" spacer that goes in there. And if you get too large, I can't remember the spec, you're going to need 2 1/8" spacers, which you can get off the Raceline website. I've already done a couple of these, and it looked like they laid down flat with the Toyo MTs, so we'll see how that goes. But if it starts being concave and that's like the bead's putting too much pressure, then it's putting too much outside pressure on these bolts, and it's going to weaken them and you're going to end up popping bolts. So you won't know until you've got these all torqued. And also look in here, because if you still have a gap once you're torqued between your beadlock ring and your actual wheel, then you have obviously too thick of a bead. Again, I've done this already on 3 other wheels. They seem to be decent. So, valve stem, and across. Bit of a long process, so have some patience, take your time, you don't want to miss any bolts. Once I've gone over them crisscross a couple times and they all seem to be torqued, I always like to do 1 or 2 rounds in a circle just to make sure you got them all. It's probably one of the most important parts on this, getting these torqued properly so you're not losing bolts or beads or anything like that. That's the worst thing happening on the trail, is start losing bolts. So we'll just do 1 circle. I already did one. Make sure that they're all torqued good, and you're always going to find a loose one. See? So once we're confident that we got all the bolts, you've gone over them a couple times, make sure they're all golden and torqued, it's time to fill this sucker up. What I like to do, I like to pull the valve stem right out, like the valve stem core right out. Gets a little more airflow in there to help pop the bead. It's not necessary, but that's what I like to do. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt when you gotta put the valve core back in, but I like getting a little more air in a little faster. So some guys will do this differently. I like to just leave them up on the bucket, and that way that bottom bead is still pushed up against the rim. Other guys stand them up and do all different sorts of things. I'm not sure why you wouldn't just want to set it like this, but that's what I do. And then I'm going to set these to about 30 psi. But to pop the bead, I wouldn't go crazy excessive pressure. Don't exceed maybe 60 psi, but let's just start filling this up. All right, so I set these to 30 psi. Now I'm going to have to put that valve stem core back in, and then we'll set the final psi to 28 on these tires. I think that should be fair. If you're quicker than me, you won't lose too much air. Sometimes I'm a little slow. And we're going to check for final psi. $28. Look at that. So we'll put our cap back on. Easy peasy. Right on, we got our Toyo onto our Raceline Monster Beadlock. So excited. Everything went really smooth, everything torqued down really nice. We got them all to 18 foot-pounds. There's no gap in between the ring and the rim itself. Nothing went concave. The bead, actually, the back bead silently popped. It filled up with air real nice. So all that's left now is just to balance these guys and then get them on the Jeep. Which is going to be the really exciting part. That's going to be our next video, is setting these babies on there and seeing what we got to do to clearance. I'm sure we're going to have a little bit of cutting to do, and possibly some different spacers on the wheel or something, but that's going to be the next hurdle that we're going to cross. So now we've got our beadlocks together in these tires. These are sexy units, and they're going to look so good on the Jeep. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped you, and we'll see you next time.